listening to the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and Mike Papantonio on the line with us, host of Ring of Fire Radio, ringofireradio.com, the website, along with Bobby Kennedy Jr. and Sam Cedar. Hey, Pap, how you doing today?
Thom, how are you?
Just great. Just great. Glad to have you with us. There's a new report out. There's actually been a fair amount of this. I mean, Robert Greenwald did a documentary about it. There's a new video out or documentary called Citizen Coke, which I've been trying to figure out how to watch because apparently NPR has buried it after a large donation from the Koch brothers, if I understand that correctly. And now this report come out from the American University, is it?
Yeah, it's American University. They tracked the Kochs for 2 years.
Yeah, and by the way, I mentioned I've been calling them the Koch brothers. I had Danny Goldberg on my show a couple days ago, and he kept calling them the Koch brothers. And I don't know if he was doing it intentionally or unintentionally, but it occurred to me afterwards, I have had people write to me saying, I can't find any reference to the COKE brothers when I try to look on the Internet. And I thought, maybe I should start calling them the Koch brothers so it's easier for people to Google them. But anyhow, you've been looking into this thing with the Koch brothers. What's the deal? Or the Koch brothers?
Right now, the Koch brothers are in this mode to where they want to start what they call a bounce attack on anybody who really comes out and tells the truth about their history. Mm-hmm. And the history is a very ugly history. And so what they've started doing, Tom, is targeting reporters with what they call a bounce method. And here's how it works. A reporter comes out and tells the truth, writes a horrible story about the truth of the Koch brothers. The Koch brothers then have their PR quick rapid response team place a criticism of that reporter, place the email, the picture, the telephone, the address, how you go after that reporter on all of the suspect sites. For example, they'll give it a guy like Tucker Carlson, who made the interesting statement that, yes, it might not be true, but I would print anything, even if it came from Satan, if it's something that I thought was newsworthy. So they plant these stories about these reporters in just little low-rent kind of sites, and then the idiot media picks up on it because they don't do the background to find out where it came from, to find out whether it's true or not, and they bounce that story, that personal vendetta, that attack against that reporter into mainstream media. Right. And so that's one thing that's going on with the Kochs. It's a fairly new development by the Kochs.
It's new by them, but I mean, if you saw Client Number 9, didn't you? The movie about Elliot Spitzer. I mean, that's exactly what they did to Elliot Spitzer.
Oh, there's no question about it. They went after him, and they
not the Koch brothers, but Wall Street billionaire.
Yeah, Wall Street went after him. There's a threat here to the Kochs, and I like this threat, Tom. It's the other side of the story. The other side of the story is Daddy Koch, who is a huge racist, a ridiculous racist.
Fred Koch.
Fred Koch started the John Birch Society. But what Fred did is he did everything below the radar. Fred was of the opinion that you don't get out into the public light because if you do, people start asking ugly questions about you. And when they started asking ugly questions about Fred Koch, they would find out he was a deplorable racist. He started an organization that really was intent on bringing fascism back to the United States. So what's happened with the little boys, these inheritance babies who got everything from Daddy? Daddy gave them every chance in the world, gave them all their money, gave them all their influence, affluence, you name it. Daddy gave it to them. They're not listening to Daddy. And so because of that, you have organizations like the American University that are coming out and uncovering these horrendous facts that we forget about. For example, we forget about that between 1999 and 2003, that the Koch industries were hit with $400 million in fines. They were charged with price fixing. They were charged with the things that resulted in criminal convictions for other people who worked for them. The story came out that they had been selling armaments. They'd been selling materials, not armaments, but materials to Iran, going behind the embargo, violating virtually a dozen U.S. laws, and just saying, we know that we're in embargo with Iran, but we're going to do this anyway. The stories come out that they made $300 million in overpricing and overcharging, overpumping oil from federal lands. Those stories keep emerging. We start hearing now people surface that worked for the Kochs. We had one of their people come forward, a guy named Phil DuBose, who came out and said that the Kochs developed their own method of cheating, their own method of stealing, and they called it the Koch method. And they told their employees how to go about stealing, how to go about cheating with this Koch method. So they should have listened to Daddy, Tom. They should have listened to Daddy, and that is sometimes it's best to be under the radar, because when you put yourself out there and you live in this humongous glass house, you got to be really careful.
Yeah. Well, and Daddy Fred arguably had a little more to hide, because I mean, the John Birch Society was notoriously anti-communist, and my main exposure to it, other than when I was a little kid, my dad took me to a John Birch Society meeting, but my main exposure was seeing these giant billboards all over the country that said "Impeach Earl Warren," and that was all about Brown versus Board of Education.
That's right.
But Daddy Koch, Freddie Koch, he made his money with Joe Stalin.
Yes, he did. That story has not been told. People don't even understand that story. But what he did, if you think about it, is different from what the Koch brothers are doing now. Is he didn't put himself in the limelight. He didn't subject himself to an Adelson problem. Right now, Adelson is in big trouble. It emerged when he put himself too far out there. Had Adelson been a billionaire, enjoyed his billions, kept his mouth shut, went about his life rather than trying to destroy a democracy, rather than trying to destroy capitalism and freedom in this country, Adelson might not be facing the charges that he's facing right now, but people started looking at him, and they'll continue doing that with the Koch brothers. That's the good news here. And I don't care how good your rapid response team is, when you have stuff like this to talk about these billionaire privileged kids that got all their money from Daddy, that are making backstreet deals with Iran to the detriment of America, when you find out that they're actually pumping oil out of the ground to the tune of $300 million worth of oil, and they have to pay a meager $25 million fine for breaking the law. When you start hearing these cases, these stories come up, the Koch brothers really subject themselves to serious scrutiny.
Are there any instances yet of anybody that they have Spitzerized, that they have actually taken down, or have they just been firing shots across the bow of people and trying to intimidate people?
Really, it's just firing shots. Sometimes these stories, like David Sasson is the best example I can think of. He's a great environmentalist, a great, just a real hero to the environmental movement. He tried to do a story on the Kochs, tried to get information from them, simply printed the truth about what their involvement was with these crazy fringe groups all over the country, secretive fringe groups. They went after David, and what ended up happening is you would have a journalist here and there that would buy into this, what we call the bounce, where the story ends up on this nothing site like Tucker Carlson's site. The media then takes that and puts it in and makes it into a legitimate report. Occasionally, you would have a brain-dead reporter that would do that wouldn't ask questions. But for the most part, the story died. He tried to do the same thing with the New Yorker magazine. Some great reporters with the New Yorker magazine that really told this horrendous, ugly story about the Kochs and just how evil they are. And they targeted one reporter in particular by actually trying to get people to go after that reporter, trying to get the reporter fired, giving personal information out about the reporter, planning it in all of the fringe crazy sites all over the country. But it was never really picked up by legitimate reporters who do their homework. It was picked up by the reporters who are lazy, the reporters who just go after low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, it can be scary. I mean, I did something on Glenn Beck once, and the next day on Fox News, he named me on the air and put my name into the chyron, and I have never in my life, in any 24-hour period, in fact, I've never in a single month gotten as many death threats as I got in the following 24 hours.
Yeah, I've been in the same place, Tom.
It's amazing. Mike Papantonio, ringofireradio.com. Thanks, Pap.
Thank you, Tom.
This is the Tom Hartman Program.
And be sure to check out Pap's his radio program, ringofireradio.com.